don't know how to feel about that. You tried to clap in my stead. You host the episode for 1 week, and now you feel like you get to clap us in. Welcome to the Jesus Cartel, the true, correct Jesus Cartel, with an intro the way that it's supposed to be. I apologize to our viewers and listeners for last week. I've been repeatedly informed that was the worst episode in the history of the show. Man, it was good, man. Did you have a good time hosting?
Oh man, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I am really good at lots of different roles. Mm-hmm. You know, when I need to be the second man, I can be the second man. The third man, I can be the guy in the room that nobody even knows is there. They're just there so we can have more guys in the room. Mm-hmm. Or I can lead. And so I think I'm equally good at all those things. So, yeah, I enjoyed hosting, but I also enjoyed my role that I do here, too.
Yeah. It was a good time. I was in the room, which you guys figured out near the end when I was invited to dominate what turned out to be just a very poor drum competition. But out of respect for the two men that we invited as guests, I didn't want to dishonor them any more than they had previously dishonored themselves with their performance.
I will say this. That was probably the most surprising thing that has happened to me this year.
What specifically?
Was how difficult of a situation that was, them having that drum off. It wasn't very loud. It wasn't very good. It wasn't aggressive. And really, it just surprised me. I thought that it would be a little more obnoxious and a little better. But it was weak all the way around. Yeah, it really surprised me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You know, I'm not surprised. But at the same time, you know, there's a reason we don't see those guys on stage playing drums. You know, it's okay. You know, not everybody can be good at everything, and some people aren't good at anything. And it's not. I'm not saying that about Drew and Ryan.
Right.
I'm just saying there are some people
right.
who legitimately have no skills. Is that Drew and Ryan? I believe that's for our audience to decide. Outside of that, man, what's been going on with you?
Well, you know, we have actually seen Drew, you know, in some competitions. We've seen him in some physical competitions. We've seen him exert his you know, his talents as far as like throwing knives and different things like that, and shooting firearms. We've seen that, so we know that he's good at some stuff. Yeah. Now Ryan has always, his claim of fame is been he played hockey. Now that's kind of convenient
in Lafayette.
Yeah, kind of convenient seeing how that we don't have a hockey rink. You know, we can't. Yeah. We haven't seen that.
And there's no ice within 1,000 miles of Broussard, where he's from.
And then when, you know, we got our newest sponsor, the Monroe Moccasins. You know, when they become a sponsor, we asked you know, Ryan about going there, and then all of a sudden he doesn't play hockey anymore. So he may be one that has zero talents. I really don't know.
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. You know, now that I think about it, it is just all stories with him, isn't it?
I mean, have you ever seen him lace up a pair of skates?
I've never seen him really play soccer either, which is you know, a big.
Now I seen him hang out with
now
teenage girls.
Everything.
Well, I seen him hang out with teenage girls and call that coaching soccer, but I didn't ever see him show them the different techniques and stuff.
Wow.
I really don't know.
Excellent point.
I think it was more of a opportunity to wear a red hoodie.
Oh, he does like red hoodies. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, we love you, Ryan.
Clay loves you, Ryan. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. It's I hope that that's not true. Last week I wasn't here. I have still currently some sort of impingement between my shoulder and neck that's causing me some discomfort, and I will say, people have been asking, I will say it's more tolerable, but it's not better in any way. Still feel the same level of pain when I feel pain, and still experiencing the same discomfort and weakness in the same positions. It's just, I guess, probably I've just gotten more used to it. You know, it's kind of become normal-ish. But yeah, like sitting right here, it's just got a nice pain that shoots from the upper part of my neck all the way down my arm. not doing anything with it. But standing is the most comfortable position. That's the reason I right before we started filming last week, I was like, hey, Ryan, you interested in shooting the Cartel today? Because I really don't want to sit for an hour. And so, but I thought y'all did an excellent job. I enjoyed listening to the episode. It was also cool just to kind of be able to walk back and forth and overwatch and just make sure everything was going. Because like right here, I can only see some of what's happening. If something goes wrong with one of the cameras, I have no idea that it's happening. If you don't flag me down, there's no way to know. And so that was actually really neat, getting to kind of oversee and make sure. I also kicked a ball into the wall when y'all did some things that I didn't like on the episode. So if you heard any loud knocking, that was me throwing a tantrum on the side. And but I enjoyed it. Other than that, we just had our Christmas party, a Fresh Start Christmas party this week, and man, that was a lot of fun. It's always a good time.
Yeah, man, it was a great time. In fact, Pawpaw, who's made as many of them as anybody, said he thought that was the best food and the best time, and it was cool. Beforehand, I always, do the food all day, and it's never overwhelming. We cook a big, huge meal, lots of courses and everything, but I just really enjoy the time management side of it and getting everything right. But then when it's time in the last couple of hours, that's when you have to bake everything. So everything's made and stuff, but then you have to bake it, and you don't want to put it in the oven and it dry out, so the timing is just right. So with all that being said, usually when that happens, that's when I go take a shower, get dressed, and get ready for the party. So the goal always is to have everything ready to go in the ovens, at 5 o'clock. And so even like the meat stuff, we pull it off the grill, have it off the grill by about 4:30, that we can set for a little while, and then we cut everything. And so this time, perfect, went out great. But while I was getting ready and everything, I was taking a shower, getting ready, and I started thinking about one of our former graduates and employees, Jamie Clark. And Mr. Jamie was with us for a long time, either as a client or as an employee. Back, actually, I think he was our very first client. I think he actually, if I remember correctly, came in a week before we ever started and just wanted to help, and everything, and then was our first client. But used to, if the Christmas party started at 6, which it always did, Jamie would get there at 5, and it's just the way it was. He would just get there early, and so he usually would end up cutting up the pork loin and stuff for me and cutting up the meat. And so I was thinking about that while I was getting dressed this time. I was like thinking about Jamie, so I texted him and told him I loved him and everything. And then later that night,
is that Jamie, like Jamie and Leslie? Okay.
That's
it.
I
remember Mr. Jamie.
Yep. And so run a construction crew for a long time.
Yeah, great guy.
So seeing I texted him, told him I loved him, told him I was thinking about him. And then after the party, I was looking at Facebook and saw Facebook memories. And we always had this party on the second Tuesday of December. And so it was coming up on my Facebook memories of a lot of years and stuff, And so then I got to thinking about David Flickinger, because a lot of times him and I would cook together. So we've talked about that and some different ones. So anyhow, it was a great time as far as in the present, but it was also a great time in thinking about the memories and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed it as always. Staple for that party for me, because I know we've had it the last couple of years for sure. I want to say maybe the last 3 years. But there's usually miniature stuffed sweet peppers. And that's always my favorite. I don't eat a whole lot of like vegetable like substances, but I love sweet peppers. I love caramelized onions. I love cooked peppers. Those are some of my favorites. I'll put them in just about anything. I like the way that it enhances the flavor of stuff. And
so if you take these, they're called sweet mini bell peppers, and they taste nothing like a bell pepper, but they're called sweet mini bell peppers. And you take them and take the top off of it, take the sides out, cut them down the middle, fill them with cream cheese, a little bit of Tony's, and a little, like a fifth of a piece of bacon on top. And it makes a great little appetizer, and everybody enjoys it. And you bake it in the oven for like 20 minutes.
Or some people will take 20 of them and make that a main course.
Hey, Ryan really likes them too.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love it. I could eat them every day. That's one of those foods I could legitimately have every day and not bat an eye about it. So that's fantastic. The gift game is always a fun game. Getting to see, I really enjoyed, I think, getting to see Tyler experience it for the first time. That was probably my favorite. I also like, and this has been something that's like, if you don't know you don't know. But when we see people like come for the first time and get to have that good experience, there was a gift in the gift game Tyler really wanted, and you could see all of us who have been part of staff for a long time looking at each other, figuring out a way to make sure he ended up with the gift. Yeah. Now, he probably didn't realize that was happening in the middle of it, but all of the rest of us, like, and it was a cool gift. I would have loved to have had it, but I was going to make sure that Tyler ended up with it, you know? And just because, like, that's what you want. And the further you get in your relationship with Jesus, the more you start caring about people. And it's like, would I have loved that gift? Oh, dude, yeah, 100%. But the fact that I know how much he would have loved that gift was more important, more impactful to me. And you could see it, that register with the people who've been a part of it for a long time. And I love those experiences and seeing people get to
he didn't really understand how it went. And I think there was a moment there that he thought we were trying to do him something. And, and then he realized it. And I think that's the reason why he was so elated when it happened, is because he didn't really think that's the way it was going to go.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was good. Yeah, so him and Halsey, and even though Halsey had been there before, he's only been there once, and he, come to find out, probably purchased the most expensive gift out of everybody, even though he's definitely not the richest out of everybody, you know, and raising his daughter now and stuff, and so he purchased probably the most expensive gift. And for a while there, he ended up with a gift that he probably didn't really desire, you know, as much even. And then somebody went and took that gift so that he could. And I don't know if they did it because they wanted it or what, you know. And
I remember the gift. They didn't.
Right. And so it worked out great. And so anyhow, so I was rooting for Tyler and Halsey, you know.
And Brandon. Brandon.
And
he
I don't
slipped
even know,
in there under the radar.
Yeah, Brandon did. Brandon did so good bringing his first gift and stuff. And what's cool about it is he knew that was going to be a good gift, but he didn't know how cool it was going to be. And for him to get to see Tyler be so excited, and then for them to use it yesterday, then Brandon's like, I got to go get me one, you know, and he's the one that bought it. And just so everybody knows, because in case you're looking for a present for, you know, a guy like that, it was a large blow dart gun, right? And one that reaches out real far, and it had lots of different darts. And so it's got the ones that are okay, they're more like a beanbag, and then it's got the real darts and stuff to it. And so they were practicing with it yesterday, and it's intense, like you said. It's pretty awesome. So if you have an older male that you're trying to find a present for, man, give us a call. But this nice big blow dart gun would probably be a ticket right there.
It was really neat. And I think that the uniqueness of it is part of the appeal. You know what I mean? Because, like, I love knives, but I have so many knives. Right. You know what I mean? Like, between me and my vehicle right now, there's probably 11, 12 knives. I don't have a giant blow dart gun.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the uniqueness of it is a lot of the appeal. One of the gifts I bought a bunch of people for Christmas this year, because we do like little knick-knack type things, nothing crazy with my family. It's a compound bow, but it's about this big. It's a fully functional compound bow with small arrows. It's about yay big, and it's just unique. It's just different, you know. It's not crazy. It's not overly useful, but it's unique. And man, that'll get you a long way. And
people like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so they did a good job. And I like, man, and, you know, because those of y'all are listening, we're not just talking about our Christmas party. We're talking about life in general. I love helping new people have fun in Christ. And so, you know, coming to a party can be a little stressful, you know, being around a bunch of people that are used to being around each other, and now you're kind of the newer person coming in, can be a little stressful. And so teaching them how to buy good gifts, kind of what to do, you know, what would be a good idea, what wouldn't be, different things like that. I enjoy that because I'm good at hosting. I'm good at making people feel comfortable. I'm good at, you know, thinking about other people and being considerate and stuff there. So it seemed like we only had a couple newer people with us this year, but it seemed like those people really enjoyed the party. And that's what it's all about to me. You know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, super fun time. Tell you something that wasn't fun.
Okay.
I hate bingo. I hate bingo. Which brings us to today's Get to Know You segment question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about games of chance? Because what I consider bingo is a game of chance. There's no level of skill to it other than listening. How do you feel about games of chance?
Yeah, so I think that they have their place, and let me tell you why I think they have their place. Because if there is actually any skill involved in a game, I'm going to dominate.
Here we go.
I mean, it's just the way it is. And so, because it's not all about me, then I think it's good for us to have games of chance. Because when we play stuff like Monopoly, then there is no chance for the rest of the people. And so I think that it's good to have games like of chance so that other people feel like winners, because I can't win everything all the time.
Yeah, I despise games of chance. I think as a society, we have done a terrible job of allowing unskilled people to remain unskilled. And, I think that when we play games like bingo or sorry, just some different things like that that really require no thought. You just draw a card. Candyland, great example. You require no thought, and, hey, you might even win.
Yeah.
It's like, well, tough luck with that. You know what I mean? Like, if they would just lose and have to feel the shame, if we played chess yesterday and, they got to go home, tell their family that hey, I let you down. I've failed. I've embarrassed us. I've dishonored our family again. Now there's some initiative, to press forward and be better. But I think that when we let people off the hook with games like bingo, I don't think it's good for them. I don't think it's good for the culture that we're trying to set. The more chance there is in the game, the less I like it. I will always participate. I will always participate. I'm not somebody who's going to throw my sucker in the mud and say, well, if it's not the game I like, I'm not doing it. I will always participate. But inwardly, we both know that you have no skills. And
well, let me say a couple comments there. So the best thing. So I put Miss Stephanie Campbell in charge of our games, and a couple years ago she had us doing some really weird stuff, and so and I'm not
Can
really.
I just say that doesn't surprise me?
Yeah, and I'm not into weird stuff. If you ever want me to not come to your party, 3 things. Tell me that we're playing weird games that make you do weird things. Tell me that we're bringing gag gifts.
Oh, yeah. Clay hates gag gifts.
Yes.
That's
And
fact.
tell me that we're wearing ugly sweaters. Those are the 3 things that I cannot stand.
I do enjoy a good ugly sweater.
Yeah,
I'll be
I can't
honest.
stand
I
that,
like 'em.
man. I can't stand being ugly on purpose. There are a lot of people in this life that are really ugly, and I understand that, and that's okay. And there's things that can make you better. Makeup can make you better. Nice clothes
I'm
can make you
anti-makeup,
better.
too.
Wigs can make you better. But being ugly on purpose, that's difficult, and so I'm just really not into that.
But here's the deal. Are ugly Christmas sweaters truly ugly, or are they just poorly designed?
No, they're
You know what
ugly.
I mean?
They're
I don't-
ugly, and they
I don't
make
think
you
that that's-
ugly.
I don't,
And
think, I don't
yeah.
think that that's true. I have a Macho Man Randy Savage Christmas sweater that says "cream of the crop" on it, and you'd have a hard time convincing me that wasn't the best sweater God ever made.
So I have that same T-shirt in a T-shirt,
Yeah, great shirt.
and I have no problem with it at all.
Here we go.
And
So we're on the same page.
yeah, the late Wesley Spears bought that for me, and
He was still alive and well.
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Sorry. I saw him yesterday.
Scored how much sheetrock he moves today. But anyhow, he bought it for me. I'm not into all that. I'm actually attending a party Saturday where you can wear anything that you want to wear. They're not going to make you play any bad games. And they did say bring a gift. And then they have said some people are bringing gag gifts. And I was very tempted not to go. I still haven't decided for sure. I did come up with the right present that I would bring if I do attend, because it's something that I guess they would call a gag gift, but I would like. And so thought about that, but really not into that. Not into that.
You sparked my curiosity. I now want to know what the gift is.
So
Can you tell me
well,
right now?
I mean, I can, because this won't, air till Friday.
Yeah.
I am debating on getting a commode plunger, because I think that's something that, it's good to have an extra one of those around, And I also thinking about,
in case you have a problem so big your original fails you.
well, so not trying to gloat, but we do have 6 bathrooms at our house. And we only have 1.5 plungers, one real one and one little fake one that doesn't work very well. So you had to travel some distance if you're
To
in the
acquire
wrong
a
bathroom.
plunger.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so you understand that.
We have to use a plunger all the time because my children throw wet wipes into the toilet constantly. So you got to
So
pull.
you had to keep it on hold.
Well, you don't even want to press the wet wipes in. You got to get that out. But they do the same thing with toilet paper. They'll just grab half a roll of toilet paper and be like, "This seems right."
And see, and that is my second item that I'm thinking about, is getting a big mega-sized box of Charmin Ultra Soft, because that's something that I would be fine.
We had a
with
debate a
carrying
while
too.
back about toilet paper and horses. I think it was. Yeah.
Were you an Angel Soft guy? What was that?
No.
I forget.
The debate was about. It was like a one item apocalypse type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Unlimited
I got
supply, and I think you picked
I got
toilet
you.
paper, and I chose horses.
And now I'm bringing toilet paper to my Christmas
Yeah.
party. Maybe that's a deeper issue that I got.
Could
I'm
be.
scared
You
to
might have an
be out of
addiction.
toilet paper.
There's a spot for you in first phase, brother. I can get you out of that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
toilet paper in first phase is difficult.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. So last week y'all had a good episode. You talked about true manhood. You also talked about being a gentleman. And man, I thought that y'all covered some good stuff. I was a little disappointed at the fact that y'all didn't address toxic masculinity and in the depth of kind of where we are in society with that, because I got a lot of strong feelings about that, because when you are trying to be a man, or you're doing the things to be a man, you can either be doing the right things and be labeled toxic, which is just a load of junk, or there is actually a line you can cross where you get so bent on things are going to be my way, that you aren't teachable, and that actually can be problematic. There is a level of being your own decision maker that can actually be a prison in and of itself. I actually was discussing that with some of the guys just this morning, that freedom is a great thing until freedom becomes a prison for you. When you can't do things, when you can't take advice because it wasn't your own ideal or your own ideology, you've reached a problematic level that's a trap that you can't see. Because, Clay's had some good experience in his life, and if Clay gives me some good advice, but I'm like, well, by golly, I'm not going to do that, because I'm not going to let another man tell me how to run my family. It's like, now I'm actually enslaved to something totally different, and it doesn't look like slavery. It doesn't look like a prison, but it is a prison, because I've shut myself off from being able to actually make what's probably the best move for me, but I can't take it because I'm the prison there would be your ego, and so. Man, that's a huge thing, and I thought that talking about being a gentleman was a beautiful thing. It's very necessary with our kids or young ladies, not being a gentleman, but being a young lady who's extremely respectful and kind. And what's the counter word for gentleman for a female?
A lady.
It's just lady.
Yeah,
Across the
being a
board
lady.
is fine.
I think so.
Okay. So to be a true lady, that's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But I really like Jordan Peterson's take on kind of like the balance between, true masculinity and then gentleness. And basically, what he says that I just love is he says that to be a man of peace, be a gentleman, a gentle man, first you have to be capable of great violence. Because if you're not capable of great violence, well, you're not peaceful, you're weak, you're useless. And so the first part of being a man is being able to actually have capability to tear some things up when they need to be torn up. If you can't do that, well, then there is no such thing as being a gentleman for you. You just happen to naturally be a weak, soft person. But if you possess the capability to tear things up and then have the discipline and the restraint not to, that's what it means to be a gentleman. And so, I don't have to be kind to my wife and children. I choose to be kind to my wife and children. There's no consequence for me if I get loud with my wife. There's nothing that she could physically do about it. But I choose to conduct myself in a way that is correct and is honorable to her and to my kids. That's being a gentleman. If my wife could beat the brakes off of me, well, now I'm not a gentleman. I'm scared.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a different thing. It's kind of an extreme example, but you understand what I'm saying. It's a lot of people take that passive mindset where I'm just never going to cause a ruckus. I'm never going to raise my voice when it needs to be raised. Like, I'm just going to stay out of it, brother. And they take that as like, well, I'm just peaceful. It's like, no, you're incapable is what you are. This situation actually calls for a man to step in and do something about this, but you're incapable. And so you're trying to disguise that behind a wall of peace. But that's not actually who you are. And so
I actually had a situation just like that yesterday, dealing with somebody that doesn't know me that well, probably knows, some of my reputation and stuff, but doesn't know me that well. And so it's a situation where I feel like that I need to have a discussion with them because I think that their course of action is wrong. And so, I go in and, don't assume that the information that I have is 100% accurate.
Good.
So I asked them to explain to me the situation. But during them explaining to me the situation, it just reinforces, what I already knew and stuff. And so, anyhow, I, had to let them know the bad side of this first. I say first, first thing I said. So first thing I did was let them explain to me the situation. And then I had to explain to them the bad side of the way they handled the situation. And what the repercussions could be. Because it's like you said, if they don't understand who you are and what you're capable of, then it's hard to be a gentleman then, because then they don't understand, right? And so I had to let them know the severity of the decision that they made and that we weren't going to allow that to happen. Then I let them offer a suggestion on how to fix their own problem that they created, which was a great suggestion. Wish she would have done it ahead of time, instead of this. But she come up with a great suggestion, and we tweaked it, and I was able to back off and go with a tweaked version of her reconciliation of the issue, which was great, and it really turned out well. But if I wouldn't have never win at all, because I wanted just to have peace, then she would have continued in her mistake, which affected a lot of people, could have affected them for a long period of time. And this person expected some resistance. And it kind of dug their heels in a little bit and was, admittedly ready for this conversation. But when they understood quickly how the negative consequences of this for all involved, then they reconsidered. Now, when we left the conversation, she would say that I was a gentleman. She would say that I was a man of integrity. She would say that I handled that really well. But it started by me letting her speak, and I listened to 100% of what she had to say without thinking about what I was going to say. I really listened. And as she said it, and as I said the repercussions that could happen from this decision, it was obvious to her what needed to happen. you know. But if we would have never had the conversation, she would have stayed in what she thought was right originally. You know, so it's good to have those qualities, man. You know, so when you're having conversations with somebody, you know, I'm a guy that doesn't like confrontation. I just generally don't like confrontation. I use confrontation because it's part of being a man, and I have to. So I've had to learn how to use it correctly. You know, lots of people really just like to be heard, and I'm one that's good at listening. You know, and if you never realize this, y'all listening at home, when somebody's talking and you're thinking about what you're going to say instead of listening to them, they know that.
That's right.
They know that. And for somebody like me, who's pretty bold, a lot of times I would just quit talking because I know you're not listening. You're thinking about what you're going to say. Nobody likes to be that person. Some people just like to be heard. They don't need you to fix them. They don't need you to give the great advice. They just want to be heard. And they want to be heard by somebody that's listening, not somebody that's thinking about what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but sometimes you need to have those difficult conversations. But like you said, if the person doesn't know what you're capable of, well, we're not talking about threats and we're not talking about those things, but they do need to understand the ramifications of, you know, certain decisions that we make.
Yeah.
You know, because there are decisions that we make all the time that can affect the rest of our lives. You know, but the way that conversation ended, she would tell you, "Hey, Mr. Russell handled this correctly," and I feel like we did, and it really helped her, really helped those that are involved. I really got nothing out of it, but I was the one that could jump in and help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's such a big deal, and I thought that probably the most important thing, not that, you know, each individual section of that didn't carry some weight and value, it did, but I think the most important thing was where you started in giving them an opportunity to explain the situation and not going strictly with the information that you came in with, because a lot of people make that mistake. You heard whatever you heard and you come in guns blazing with that information. It's like that might not even be what happened, or you might be missing some very important context. And once that context is offered, a lot of times that clarifies the whole situation, clears everything right up. And sometimes that's awesome. You know, the way you're talking about it, I fear that, you know, some of the viewers may have taken that, and you tried to clarify it, but I fear some of the viewers may have taken that as like trying to look tough. That's not what was happening at all, especially with a young lady that you were talking. I don't know who it was. I'm just saying young lady. But a young lady you were talking to, we certainly wouldn't be threatening towards. That's ignorant. But it is a reality to present the potential outcomes and let them know at the beginning, like, hey, look, there's two ways this ends.
Yeah.
And when you put that on the table, it forces them not to say anything stupid. Like, as long as if they're still willing to say something stupid, they are accepting and understanding of the potential negative outcome. And that's a good thing. But I mean, you know, you're going to have a different conversation if you're standing on a pile of gasoline and the one you're talking to just lit a match and is trying to decide whether or not they're going to put it out or drop it. You know what I mean? It's just,
well, I mean, we've had those conversations a lot. You know, I'll tell, you know, like our administrator, Brad, you know, he handles discipline and stuff. Well, there's sometimes I know about, you know, maybe the legal side of this situation that he may not know. You know, he may be taking, you know, he's dealing with the client, he's dealing with the problem, but I know the side of the judge, the legal side or whatever, and sometimes I'll go to Brad and say, hey, man, explain to me this situation. Yeah. He'll explain to me the situation of, hey, this is what went down, this is what I decided. And I say, okay, well, there's some information you didn't have. This is what we have over here. I just want to give this to you. And Brad would be like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? No, I don't want you to do
whatever you want.
I just wanted you to know this information, because if you didn't have this and then things go south, then I don't want to be the one that says, well, I could have told you that. And you're like, well, why didn't you tell me? You know, and I've done the same thing with Stephanie, you know, making decisions at the Women's Center. Hey, I'm not trying to do your job at all. I just want you to have all the information. And so here's, let's say they have all the information. Well, then my side of it is okay, let's look at potential outcomes. I just want you aware that there's basically two potential outcomes here. That's the conversation you and I've had a lot. I remember now you telling me that a lot. Hey, there's two ways this could go, and I just want you to know. And so when we make this decision, we're kind of at a crossroads, and you've had that conversation with me a lot, and that's kind of all I did.
Which was not threatening, and that's the
no, and that's what I did with this lady. Is I just want her to understand the ramifications of some of these decisions, because she was unaware, and as she was aware of how big a deal it is, then she realized there was another course of action. Like I said, the course of action she took was really better and more considerate than what I would have come up with. But I never even considered a course of action. I just wanted her to understand everything that was on the table.
Yeah. It's such a huge deal. I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday, a similar situation that had potential to go extremely negatively, and I wasn't even involved in the situation. I was brought in as a third party because I was the one who could fix it. And if it came to a conflict between the two parties, it was going to be a very bad conflict. So this was my one and only go at potentially solving this conflict without it coming to blows.
Right.
And so, I step into the situation and I just said, hey, look, I don't think that you had negative intentions. I'm going to start there. I don't think that you had negative intentions. But here's what happened, and that can't happen. That can't happen. Regardless of what your intentions were, the way that it was perceived was very bad. And you've got to protect yourself from those types of perceptions. That can't happen again. And I reiterated to the person several times that I thought that they're wonderful and that I love them and that I genuinely, this is not an accusation of your character. But if this happened, now he understands, should that go again, I can't help you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've made your own choice at this point. You've been warned as best you can be warned, and I've told you how far this thing goes. If you revisit that situation, now it's on him.
Yeah.
I can't.
So I got a question about that. How many times have you had a very similar conversation to that, to where you told somebody, I know this was not your intentions, but this is the way it come out, or this is the way it was perceived, or this is the way it went, even though it wasn't your intentions, and now here's where, the options of where to go. How many times have you had that conversation with people?
Once a week for the last 14 years.
Yeah. Very, if you're not having conversations like that with people, we would challenge whether y'all were really friends or really mentoring people or anything like that. That is a very common conversation.
Yeah.
And so if you feel led to have that conversation with somebody, have it. And if somebody has that conversation with you, you accept it and realize that was a very common conversation.
And it may have been hard for them to do because they didn't want to upset you. You know what I'm saying? If somebody's coming to you, don't feel accused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't feel like, I can't believe you'd even think that about me. It's like, they're not saying they think that about you. They're saying to someone, it came off that way.
Right.
And so they're not even saying to them it came off that way, but it came off that way to someone, which is why they're at the point where they feel like they got to talk to you about it. And so they're trying to help you out so that they're the one that talks to you and not whoever that someone is, because that's not going to go well. And so, yeah, man, it's super, super common. If you love people, you're going to have these kind of conversations all the time. I've been on both sides of these conversations.
Yes. Yeah. And need to be on both sides of it.
Sure. Now, I'm not on the receiving end now near as much as I was earlier in my walk. But as you're learning and growing, and I'm not saying I'm exempt from it, I'm just saying it doesn't happen near as much as it used to.
Right.
Just because you learn, you grow. And the more you grow, the less people are going to call you on things, because it takes someone who's walking where you're walking to even understand the context of what's going on. You know what I mean? So the deeper you get with Jesus, the only people who are going to talk to you are people who are deep with Jesus. And those people are going to be so good at communication because they've been walking with Jesus for a long time that you're not going to feel any type of way about it.
Well, and that's where I was supposed to go with that. It's not a heart issue; it's a communication issue.
That's right.
And the better you get at communicating, then the less likely those things are to happen to you. And that's the reason why I guess you and I are really good at communication, and that's the reason why we're able. But a lot of people like to learn about communication, and that's why we had to have those conversations and stuff. But you can have those conversations in your marriage. You can have those conversations with those closest to you. You can have those conversations with anybody. There's things that there's times over the years where I've said certain things to our children in a way where Becky's like, I don't think that they're going to receive it the way you intended to give it. And the same thing. I'm like, hey, probably didn't have to say it that way. And stuff. And that's the same kind of conversation. Now, the heart was right on both of them, but a man dealing with children and a woman dealing with children, it can be different and stuff. And so those are common conversations that we have with everybody that we're around.
That's why I laugh, because Courtney and I have those conversations all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's not nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's somebody that I'm real close with the other day that there was a situation, and my response was, yeah, you're going to have to go talk to him about that. And their response was, I'm not interested in being a part of that conversation. And I looked at him and I said, this could be such a good conversation. Like, you're thinking about everything that could go wrong. What I'm telling you is, this could be a beautiful conversation that brings the two of you closer together. This doesn't have to be a conversation that's confrontational. Even though the subject matter is confrontational, it doesn't have to be confrontational. This is an opportunity for you at the beginning of this conversation to lay out some really great qualities about the person you're talking about. And it's like, start with their heart. It's like, hey, I just want you to know that I think this, and this about you. Say some really great things that you truly believe about them. And then you ease into the issue. It's like, there's been a situation that's come up. It's got to do with this, but I know you, and I know that's not what you meant. And so just kind of help me understand so that we can kind of bridge the gap here. You know what I mean? Like, those conversations aren't bad. And at the end of it, that conversation ended up getting had, and it went wonderful. It went wonderful.
I had a guy call me Sunday night, and he was back and forth about having a conversation with somebody, and here was his dilemma. This is a great man, and everything. But his dilemma was, but I don't want them to shoot the messenger. And hey, that's a legitimate concern. He was speaking not just for himself, but for a group, or potentially contemplating speaking not just for himself, but for a group. And he was concerned because the person that he needed to have the conversation with is by nature confrontational. And so he was deciding whether or not to even have the conversation, if it was worth it or not. That's difficult, because I asked him, I said, well, do you believe everything that you're going to say? Yes. Do you believe that he needs to hear everything that you're going to say? Yes. Do you love this person? Do you want what's best for this person? Yes, I do. What's the holdup? I'm scared that they're going to be upset with me because I'm bringing this to them. Now, that is where I don't want to be in life.
Yeah.
Is where people are scared to come bring things to me because they're scared not of my initial reaction, but of my long-term reaction. Because initially there's things that conversations you've had with me, I've had with you, I've had with my wife, different ones where we knew it wasn't going to be the happiest conversation right off the bat.
Yeah.
But we also knew that it was best for the greater good and it was going to be fine. Everybody's initial reaction to something doesn't make it that way. Some people have to process stuff. It's okay to, get a little flared up at first and, get a little prideful and then, be able to reconcile it and be like, yeah, they're right. I didn't want to hear it, but they're right. That's okay. I never have problems with that. We have those conversations all the time, and that's okay. But to be the person where somebody that really cares about you is really scared to bring something to you that really needs to be brought to you for your benefit, but yet you have a character flaw of burning bridges and shooting the messenger that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
Man, I pray that I'm not ever that person.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
Because this other guy has the best of intentions, but I don't think he's going to take the chance.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have the conversation.
Yeah, man, and that's tough. And it's one of the major struggles of life is putting aside what you want most for what you want right now. And I believe that whoever your friend is, ultimately what they want most for the other friend is that things be right and go well. But they're putting that aside for what they want right now, which is peace.
Right.
And that's not, it's never good. You never set aside what you want most for what you want now. A great example of that, kids with iPads. I'm not saying kids aren't allowed to have iPads. I think there's a time and place for them. My kids don't have iPads, just for transparency's sake on my end. But it's because I want to be able to control how much time they spend doing things like that. But one of the major problems I see is when we'll go out to eat, sometimes we'll see kids at tables with iPads. And what the parents are getting, or whoever's in charge of them at that moment, what they're getting at that moment is something they want in that moment, which is peace. Kids still, he's quiet, he's getting peace. But what I believe that parent wants most for their kid, and their kid to be develop well socially, to have some self-discipline, to be able to follow instruction, to be well behaved, to be someone who respects people, they're sacrificing all of that for this current version of peace. And that's very disappointing. And later in life, it's going to cost you more than I think you're willing to pay if you really understood what you were paying on the front end, which is why conversations like, hey, there's two ways that this ends,
Right.
are super necessary.
Which we've had many times, right?
And I've had those with family members that stick iPads in their kid's face for dinner. I'm like, hey, look, I understand what you're doing, and I understand why you're doing it. And I know your intention, your heart in this matter is that everybody can enjoy dinner. But, man, I really think it would benefit you in the long run to suffer a little bit over the next few dinners and help groom them into a place where they can have these dinners without that being a necessity. And great conversation. Great conversation. Every now and then, maybe 10% of the time, you do catch a little backlash. And I'm like, well, hey, where do you get off? What do you know? And I'm like, hey, look, maybe I'm wrong here. I'm willing to admit that if I am. It's just a concern that I have for you. I love you. I wanted to just present that to you. If you think that I'm mistaken, I'll pull away from it, and that's okay. You gotta have humility. But I can tell you this: of those situations, I don't think I've ever had one not come back to me later and say, "Hey, I should have listened to you."
Hey, and I agree. And just so you know, having conversations with people are a lot easier when they see you living out what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
If you're telling them something totally opposite of what they see you do, you ain't got a chance. I mean, you're just wasting your time. I mean, whether it's with your kids, with your peers, with your spouse, you got to be living out what you're saying.
100%.
I had a guy yesterday, I was doing premarital counseling with him, and the guy's known me for a long time, and we're not friends. He's just known me for a long time, and through various channels, and we get through with the premarital counseling, and I'd give him some good advice, and he goes, you're the first person that's ever given me advice, and I felt like I should have listened to exactly what you're saying, because this guy knows more than I know on this subject.
Yeah.
And he's going to give me good advice.
That's good.
He said, I've had a lot of people give me a lot of advice, and I didn't even listen. But he said, I knew that you would give me the right advice for this topic.
Yeah.
There's other things that he knows a lot more about than I do,
Sure.
But in this topic, I was an expert in this area, and he knew it. He saw the way my life went. He understands. And so, man, when you're walking out in an area, it's so much easier. I mean, we've said it before. I mean, who's going to take exercise advice from the 450-pound guy? Yeah. Who's going to take financial advice from the guy that's been bankrupt 7 times and he just hadn't filed for number 8 yet? You want to be able to listen to people that are walking these things out. So when you have a conversation with somebody, I didn't realize we were doing a whole communication there.
We are, though.
Yeah, it was supposed to go a different direction. And it was supposed to go a direction I really want to do one day, and we'll maybe do it another day. But man, having those tough conversations with the right heart, with the right motives, are very necessary.
Yeah, and the other thing is sometimes you might not realize it, but the person who's having the difficult conversation with you, if you're the one on the receiving end, they might also be protecting you in ways you don't realize. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say, and this is a total hypothetical, nobody has done this. So
we're going to have 5 people say, y'all were talking about me.
I'm going to use you. I'm going to use you, and this is a completely made-up scenario. Nobody has done this. But let's say that I asked you to watch my children. And one of the things that I asked, hey, look, if you go anywhere with them, please make sure that they're buckled up. Now, you don't care about seatbelts. That's not necessarily true. It's just what I'm saying. But Clay doesn't care about seatbelts. He's not worried about it. The kids will be fine. They don't need to buckle up. You drive careful. It's not a big issue. And then I find out that happened. First of all, I'm pretty frazzled. I'm pretty frazzled because what I asked wasn't super complicated. It's a fairly simple task. And it means a lot to me. The safety of my children means a lot to me. Whether or not you agree doesn't matter. Right. What I was asking you to do was honor something I requested of you. It doesn't matter if you agree. It's a matter of honor. And you dishonored what I requested. And so my heart's racing now, even imagining the scenario, But what you don't understand is that me asking you that, one, is to protect my children. Obviously, it's also to protect you, because let's say that something did happen.
You're living with that.
And you get in a wreck and something happens to my children. They weren't buckled up. You were specifically asked not to make sure that they were buckled up. You got to deal with that now. And also, you got to deal with me. I'm a Christian man. I love you to death. That would be a very difficult situation for me. A very difficult situation where I'm going to have to fight everything in my flesh not to come track. You know what I mean? Like there's a reality on the other side of that where all of it could be avoided by simply honoring the request. Yep. And in a lot of cases, if it's not on the other end where someone's asking me to do something dangerous for someone, if it's not on the other end, I honor a lot of requests I don't agree with. I honor a lot of requests I don't agree with. We allow people to smoke at Fresh Start. I think that's the dumbest thing in the entire world. I think that is the most ignorant thing in the entire world, that we're trying to get people set free, and here they are smoking, 10 cigarettes a day, some of them. It's insane. But I understand why. I understand that asking somebody to cut away too much all at once can be a lot, and it may actually hinder what we're mostly trying to accomplish by doing too much at once. And so for that reason, even though I don't agree with it, I totally understand it. And for that reason, not only do I honor, but I also agree. How does that work? How do I disagree and agree at the same time? Because I disagree with the big picture of it all, but I understand the method. And I understand why it's important to you as a director, why it's important to our facility as a whole. And for that reason, I can make a concession and I can honor that request, not throw a fit, not try to backdoor the whole thing and on my own accord, take it upon myself to make sure people are quit. I'm not fighting that battle. I'm just honoring the information that was passed to me. And there's a million situations like that in life. Oh, yeah.
You don't have to fight every battle that you're given an opportunity to fight. I have been basically in charge of praise and worship at the river for 24 years. We've had other, praise and worship leaders that I will allow to lead and stuff, but ultimately it all comes back to me, over the years. And I don't like Christmas music at all, and I'm not the only one,
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, the greater number likes Christmas music, so we play some Christmas music mixed in. This past Sunday, we played our first Christmas song, which happens to be a great rendition of "Joy to the World" that Chris Tomlin did. And so as soon as we started, there's two of my favorite teenage boys on the front row, and they both look at me and they're like, Really?
Yeah.
Really? And it's Kaysen and Cooper,
Yeah.
and they're just like, really? We're 3 weeks out, but we're doing it, hey, for the greater good. Do I think that it was better to do that song versus Battle Belongs or something like that? I don't. I don't. I think that a more up-to-date, spirit-filled praise and worship song would have been better. But at the same time, was this song appropriate because of the time and everything? Sure, it was. And so whereas I don't agree with it, I do agree with it, like you were saying.
Yeah. And also your willingness to bend in that area, it makes you not come across as rigid, and which is going to make you significantly more approachable. And so, I've said this on here before, but like when you have the opportunity as a leader to give other people the chance to win, let them. Let them. If it's not going to hurt you, man, let other people win. Let other people have some ownership in some things. They're going to be much more likely to discuss, bring ideas, challenge ideas, and be a part of the big process if you let them have some moments, versus if every time they know you're always going to shoot it down and do whatever you decided to do, they're going to stop talking to you. They're not going to bring you problems. They're not going to try to help you. They're not going to have ideas. And even if they see like a glaring hole and whatever, they're not going to say anything, because why should they? You're just going to do whatever you want to do anyways.
How are we on time?
We do and don't have time.
So we're there?
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I want to say with that is something that we have mentioned on the show every once in a while, is letting other people win. And that has been one of the main things that people have come to me, and a concept that they've never even thought about before until we said it.
Yeah.
And then they've been able to analyze it, look at it, and realize that, hey, that is a big deal. Now remember when we say sometimes it's good to let other people win, we're not talking about negotiating with terrorists. We're not talking about giving somebody something that they want because that doesn't work. We're talking about strategically choosing to let somebody else win in life, to be able to it does a lot of things. It can build confidence in them. It can help you strengthen your relationship. And like Andrew said, it can also help them to bring more things to the table. Even if they don't win again for a little while, they remember that win when you took their idea, when you did what they asked. And so those things are good. But I want to bring that back to, that's the reason why there is a place in life, even though I don't like it, there is a place in life for games of chance, because it allows other people to win. Man, we've enjoyed this episode of Jesus Cartel.
I take it all back.
We love each and every one of you.
I was wrong. I'm humble enough to admit I was wrong.
Oh, man, that was great.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. Well done.
Anything else, man?
No, I do agree with what you're saying. We're planning a D now right now with Fresh and Cam.
Okay.
Which Fresh youth pastor at the River, Cam's youth pastor at First Baptist Wisner, and I was just messaging them this morning. Got a contract back from the place we're trying to do the D now at, and there were some expenses and things that were a little greater than I expected on some certain ends. And so what I did is I essentially presented them with 3 different options, and there's one option, it's very clear to me, is the correct option. But I'm willing to do any of the 3, or nothing. I'm willing to do any of those, and I'm going to go with whatever they suggest, even though I'm certain that the best thing for the whole is the one that I'm thinking of, and I sincerely hope that that's where they land, but they may not. And from their preliminary comments, it doesn't sound like they're landing where I'm landed, and that's okay. We'll figure it out, because it's going to be better to go with what they have in their vision, and that way they'll also have ownership of those ideas, which is going to make them want to work harder at those particular ideas. They know where I stand on the matter, and so. But I told them, hey, I'm willing to do whatever you guys think is best. Here's kind of my opinion. But whatever you guys think, I'm fully on board. And they know, and I mean it. Like, whatever they decide, I'm going to give every bit of my effort to make sure that it succeeds in the way that they see it. For one, because I love them. Mm-hmm. Two, in case I'm wrong.
Right.
Just because I feel certain that this is the best idea, if they both feel a different way, and there's a chance, because they're two men that I respect and I know have a strong relationship with the Lord. There's a chance I'm wrong here. Mm-hmm. And so if I withhold my best effort because I think that they're wrong, well, that's ignorant. Now I might be the reason that it fails. Yeah. And it may have worked perfect if I just tried. But so they're going to get my full effort. And if it succeeds, praise God. Praise God. If it's everything we intended it to be, praise God. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And if it's not, then my opinion will hold more weight them next time we have an opportunity to make a decision. Yeah. And that's great either way.
I forget that Cam's a full-time youth director, or he is the main youth director. Yeah. How is he as a youth director? How would you be as a 15-year-old boy and Cam Harper's your youth director?
It's hard to say. I've never sat in on a group with Cam. I've got to hear Cam preach several times. He does a fantastic job. Cam is somebody who is extremely passionate about the gospel, and I value that immensely. As far as like his interactions with the students, I really don't. I've not seen him interact with the students myself. I really enjoy being around Cam personally, and so I would assume that he probably does a pretty great job.
I would think that Cam would be a cool youth director to have.
But that's one of the cool things about this D now is we're going to get to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get to see it all in action, and youth ministers and stuff like that, we're always sharpening each other. Just seeing the way that each other handles things. We don't always have those conversations, because you don't want to say, hey, look, man, I think you're killing it out there. If you were a little better preacher, we don't say things like that. But when I watch Fresh do Hangout Week, and I just see what an incredible event Hangout Week is every year for the River, man, that challenges me to be better at, events outside of the large scale ones or the Wednesday night services. And so that sharpens me. It makes me better. And, maybe they hear me speak and they're like, man, he's good at speaking, man. That challenges them to put a little more time into their messages and things like that. Or, it's just an example. Yeah. But it's a good thing.
Because like Fresh, for instance, Fresh is, he's a teacher by trade, so he's good at planning stuff, but yet he's really laid back at the same time, and
Sure.
So he's got a pretty cool mixture there of being planned out, but not being so rigid and everything, but he's more of a chill type guy. Mm-hmm. Cam's a little more in your face, as far as he's a little more assertive and those kind of things. I don't know how he is at planning stuff, and everything, but he seems like he'd be a fun guy, to have as a youth director.
Well, I'll tell you what he is for sure, is he's a guy who's willing to learn.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he took that role, he called me.
Okay.
I mean, within minutes, as soon as it was known to him, he was like, hey, let's sit down, let's talk, let's plan. And so, it's hard to have concerns about a guy who's immediately willing to take and ask for counsel and outside help. You know what I mean? Yeah. He didn't get in there and say, well, I know that the guys around me have been doing this for a lot of years, but I probably know better than they do. He immediately asked for guidance, and I thought that was huge. And he's got a great relationship with his pastor down there, who has been in ministry for many years as well. And so I know that that's also a massive asset to him.
Cool.
Cool. You got anything else?
I'm good.
Yeah, I feel great. Love you guys.